Hello, and welcome everyone to our Techspressionism virtual salon. I am your host and moderator, Davonte Bradley, otherwise known as Davo. And with me is a slew of interesting artists and, the people that are kind of helping to push this movement that we are part of forward. People like Colin Goldberg, who coined the term Techspressionism, who will be speaking a little bit later. We also have C. Moses doing a presentation today. And we have two interesting art projects kind of tied to either individuals in our movement or, started by people in our movement. That includes the Niftorian project, who Brett will be speaking a little bit later about that. And then a exhibition led by Giovanna, who's going to be talking about that. It's going on in New York. If you are just joining us for the first time today, well, we're artists for the most part, all of us. And the movement, I could probably say a little bit about that, but I think it was recommended that Colin actually give just kind of brief flyover of what we are and what we're about. So if you're up for it, Colin, you have the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my name's Colin Goldberg, and I'm an artist, like most of you folks. And Techspressionism basically is a word I came up with, or a term, since it's not in the dictionary at this point, about a decade ago, and it was to describe my own work. And then sort of fast forward to now, at some point during the pandemic, I saw that in a Google News search, some other artists had started to use the term to describe their work, and a bunch of us got together and started this thing, which I kind of like to think of as a social sculpture in the spirit of the artist Joseph Beuys, who was a German artist back in the 70s. And the idea behind that is that art can have an expanded definition, which includes things like social structures, or in this case, social media, and can also be decentralized and distributed and participatory in the way that this is. If people want to call it a movement, by all means, I'm not going to argue with them. I still feel a little strange about that term, but I think that my personal goal is for Techspressionism to be a term that's brought into common usage as a term of art historical nomenclature that would be an extension of expressionist traditions, which started with figurative expressionism through abstract expressionism, neo-expressionism, and here we are. So yeah, and our advisor for this project is a woman named Helen Harrison, who's been really instrumental in guiding the project. She's the director of the Paula Krasner House and Study Center in East Hampton, and is a top scholar on abstract expressionism, specifically Jackson Pollock, and she works in Jackson Pollock's old home and studio where he lived with his wife Lee Krasner. And Krasner was also an abstract expressionist who helped create the Paula Krasner Foundation. So the definition of Techspressionism, the working definition, Helen actually helped develop, which is an artistic approach in which technology is utilized as a means to express emotional experience. So that's as a counterpoint to terms such as digital art or new media art, which only describe the media involved, not necessarily the artistic intent or any of the, the content involved in the usage of the technology. And yeah, that's about it from me. Thanks, Dabo.
You're welcome. See, I could have given an explanation similar to that, but I think you probably said it multiple times before, so you kind of already have it committed to memory. And in my case, I probably would have been stumbling over words. And like, yeah, so it's kind of like this. And yeah. New art movement. Absolutely. All right. All that being said, welcome newcomers, first timers to our salon. And we're going to get started here soon with C giving her presentation first. I do ask that you keep yourselves muted for the duration of said presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We will get to them shortly after the presentation is concluded. And you're also free to raise your hand if you have a question after the end of the presentation. And yeah, thank you for coming. And C, I do believe you now have the floor. Or maybe not, because I think you might have DC'd. Yike. That is also a thing that does happen here sometimes. Sometimes the Wi-Fi does not behave and technical difficulties do happen. That's kind of a regular thing. So in the we'll wait for a few moments.
I see her.
Is she back?
See, are you in the Zoom? I see her in my grid.
She's in the grid, but her webcam's frozen. Yeah.
I can jump in if you want.
Yeah. Gonna give it like 1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
Just she's actually out, so she might be trying to reconnect now. But filler stuff. Thanksgiving's coming up. If you celebrate that, food is good. Food comas are great. If you don't actually celebrate Thanksgiving and treat it as more like a Friendsgiving or just a family get together, because there are some objectionable things about the tradition of Thanksgiving that people might not be a fan of, which completely understandable. That's like a lot of things here in America, very questionable. But I hope that you guys do have a good time at later parts of this week. I know I will be enjoying a copious amount of food, and we'll probably pass out for 2 days here, shortly thereafter. And doesn't look like C is back yet, so I think I will go ahead and pass it off to Brett, unless Colin, did you have something you want to share, or real quick?
I just wanted to just do a quick intro. Oh, here she is.
Oh, is she back?
I'm sorry, you guys. This is like the Wi-Fi was working perfectly until you said you have the floor, and then I'm just like,
Did I drop the mic too hard? It made the Wi-Fi drop
way too hard. Yeah.
My apologies. I'm sorry.
Awkward. Do you want me to go ahead and start, or did you want to pass it to somebody else? Okay.
Yeah, you go ahead and start.
All right, cool. Let me just act like that didn't completely throw me for a loop. But hello everyone. My name is Carmen Moses. I go by C Moses. Bayasa. Most people either call me Carmen or C. It's all good. So I'm gonna pretend that I'm not a nervous wreck, and I tried really hard not to plan, because I don't know if you guys know, but like when you plan, it's just like, well, what if I deviate from the plan? So I'm just pretending that I'm talking to all of my friends at a casual lunch chat. So feel free to munch if you need to. I guess I'll just kind of start. We're good to share screen, yeah? Let me do that. Oh no, I need to open my system preferences. That's awesome. I just got a new computer too.
But congrats.
Thank you. Davo, do you want to pull up my website real quick?
Yeah, I could do that. It's still
great job. Just pat on the back for that. Well, while that's happening, so just to give you a little bit about me, I'm from Augusta, Georgia. I've actually lived in this area pretty much my entire life, which probably explains my weird lack of accent. My family's originally from Puerto Rico, so there's a whole lot of like Hispanic accent and Southern accent. So I think everything just kind of, neutralized with me. And if you're unfamiliar with the South, it's both hot and cold depending on the hour of the day. So I work at the Jesse Norman School of the Arts. If you don't know Jesse Norman, famous opera singer from Augusta. I'm the performing arts director there, and just one of the many resident artists. We're all artists here, so it's kind of fun. We're just a bunch of kooky art teachers. But I've been kind of artistic my whole life. I really got into it what I call the first round of college. So I went to Augusta University when it was probably some other name in 2005, and hadn't really kind of discovered my artistic voice yet. But then I kind of went back actually, you're doing great, Davo. This is exactly where we need to be. So this is just some of my like previous drawing stuff. I was very much into drawing and coloring and kind of conceptual things. And some sort of saucy things as well, as you can see. But then after that, I kind of gave up on art and was kind of lost and kind of didn't know what to do. And then I ended up going back to Augusta University. Davo, you can read my mind. This is exactly where we needed to go. You're amazing.
I'm good at this.
You're amazing. So if you just want to pause here for a second, this is some of my college work, and I still had a kind of a tough time. I went back in 2015 and still kind of wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Still thinking that I wanted to do drawing, and I ended up taking photography and printmaking at the same time. And something about those two subjects together clicked really hard for me. So a lot of times, so this piece in particular, some pieces actually have live models that I took pictures of and manipulated in Photoshop. But I actually started off hating both photography and printmaking. I told my professor that I was only in that class because it was a requirement. And then, hundreds of dollars of camera equipment later, I changed my mind a little. So absolutely love both mediums. And another thing that was sort of instrumental for me in kind of creating this this particular look was learning about Renaissance art. I had an amazing art history professor, Michael Schwartz, and he just made everything sound magical, to be perfectly honest. So I learned a lot about Renaissance art and was really inspired by that, really inspired by religious subjects. And also technology, because I think I'm kind of in this weird generation that we know what it's like to not have it, but we also know what it's like to have it. So we remember the before 4 times, when we were still writing on stone tablets and stuff. So
Pre-Google.
Pre-Google, yes. When we were doing GeoCities and Angel Fire, Backstreet Boys websites, yeah, I'm down. So the kind of recurring theme of technology has always been kind of something in my head. I'm a big video gamer. I remember having the VHS tapes and all that. And I remember about this time I had someone who was younger was just like, what's a VHS tape? And I'm like, holy crap. This does not feel good. Don't ever ask me that again. So that all of those kind of influences and things like Afrofuturism and just kind of all these things I was exposed to really just kind of started coming together for me to create this particular series, which originally was going to be Catholicism based, but I started putting in some different religions, and which I'm sure you guys can kind of see those influences. But yeah, so that's this particular series. These are all screen prints on paper. I absolutely adore screen printing. I haven't been able to do it since I graduated, and I'm afraid I'll get pulled off of campus if I try to sneak in and screen print, so I don't do that. But yeah, so if you want to go to, where's the menu? I'm going to pretend I'm scrolling. I'm just kidding. I just want to feel like I was doing something. So if you want to go to, actually, that's a good place. We'll go to Skellybots. So I've started doing a lot of digital work, and I've kind of created these little characters. And this is I've been working on too many serious things. I need to do something fun for a couple of minutes. So usually these drawings take me about a day. But it stemmed from something that I did in college, these little kind of line of cuts and drawings. So that's just kind of my fun little thing that I do. I actually have a new Christmas card I just created. So I'll have that up on the website soon. It's on my Instagram. And the story behind this is I have like a little backstory for these characters. So I just think that they live in this post-apocalyptic world where they come down to Earth and they see a bunch of skeletons. So they think that's what we look like. And they're just like trying to figure out our really weird society and our weird customs. Like, something as simple as putting a star on a tree. Like, why would a human do that? So this is just kind of my fun series. But yeah, just for fun. And then if you want to go to the digital gallery, I think, so this is more of the digital Techspressionist kind of work. A few of these things are. So like, I'm pointing at it like you guys can see where I'm pointing. So like the TV Mary is one. So this is based off of the other image. I just created a digital version of it just to play around with colors and things. Let's see, what else do we have? And then just, I think the first one, the top left, is probably the first one. The first piece I did out of college, sort of still exploring this idea of the Virgin Mary and maternity and identity and all these sorts of things. And if we can go back, thank you, Davo. I'll send your check in the mail. I appreciate you. So if you want to go back up, I think, and then we'll go to the photo gallery, and then we'll go to the rest of the kind of Techspressionist stuff. So this is just some of my photography work, not necessarily too technical. A lot of these things were just kind of explorations, which I have a few of our interns now are in college, and they're just like, I don't have a body of work. And I'm like, that's not going to happen until your senior year. You're too busy trying things. So if you go down to where it says photo manipulations, this is where things kind of started to get really kooky with technology. This is probably one of my favorite pieces. We had to do a self-portrait in my photography class, and I'm not really into I'd rather be behind the camera than in front of it. And I kind of didn't like the look on my face. So I was just like, well, why don't I turn myself into a TV head character? So this is kind of my ode to Frida Kahlo and my personal style. But yeah, there's a lot of these sort of kind of manipulated photos. That's my daughter. I said, put on this skull mask so mommy can make an A. And I did. So woo, good job, kiddo. And then this is another one. And I'm just now working on my website, so that everything's still a little bit wonky. I've never had a big girl website before, so I'm still learning some things. Again, just kind of photo manipulation and thinking about technology as a relic and all sorts of things. I don't know if there's any more after that.
I think that's it. Yep, that's it.
Okay. Cool. So if you want to just go to the home page now, I think, appreciate you. So this is this particular body of work is really where things started to take off with the Techspressionism for me. And I kind of got involved with the movement. I saw an artist call, and I hadn't really met anyone else that did kind of or was thinking along the same lines. So when I saw that, I was like, it's my people. So thank you for accepting me. It means a lot. Now, all of this that you're seeing are things that I created on my phone or on a tablet, mostly on my phone. I find that a lot of the people that I hang out with that are artists, we all tend to have something going on, depression, anxiety, ADD, you name it. So I have depression. I'm, which is people think is strange because I'm always just like, life of the party, or so I've been told. But I was kind of going through a really rough patch and kind of didn't know what to do. And I would find myself just unable to do things. And I was actually talking with a friend of mine about depression and how it's so funny what you can't do when you're in that state, like things that you know how to do, like tying your shoes. So art became an obsession, and doing things on my phone and learning how to use these sort of digital drawing processes and programs. I kind of let me have my voice again. So I started creating these digital abstract works, which abstraction has always been kind of difficult for me, but I found it really easy in the digital format. So just really started playing around with line and drawing and manipulation and using things like filters, using things, the things that you are kind of automatic in these digital programs to just see what would happen, So I like these pieces because thank you guys for all the compliments. I'm seeing them in the chat and I'm like, thank you. But so each one of these pieces are used with, using a drawing or manipulating it in some way. I really like the octopus too. It's a fan favorite. Big Ursula fan, so I like octopus or octopi.
Octopi, I think.
Octopi, okay. Octopi. So and the thing that's kind of fun about these pieces for me is that there's no way on God's green earth that I could do the same thing twice. And that's where it's really fun for me, because it's just like it doesn't matter, you know, if I went and redid the exact same thing from memory, I would not come up with the same thing. And then that one that you have up, I just switched it. I switched the colors around, and myself and Michael Price did a piece together, which I was showing all my people that I'm like, look, a grown-up artist wants to show with me. So I was really proud of that, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that. But yeah, and then they all have different, that one, yay, go Michael, okay. So I mean, I'm not quite sure what else to say about these pieces. I use a lot of symmetry, both just kind of the half and half symmetry and like sort of radial symmetry. Seriously, Davo, you're on point. Like everything I'm saying, you're like, this piece is what she's talking about. It's amazing. If anyone else wants to hire Davo, he's very affordable.
I am. I have to toot my own horn there. Yeah.
Yes. And kind of worked with kind of creating these sort of android robots as well. But I find that I'm having the most fun with the abstraction part and creating sort of like mandalas and different things. So I think that's that. I would love for people to visit and give me feedback for sure. I tend to name these after they're done. Because I don't go in with any particular intention. It's all feeling. It's like, okay, well, I feel like just doing this. I just feel like doing a scribble. Okay, now let's see what I can do with that scribble. So there's never really an intention going in, or a conscious intention, like I'm going to do something with a flower. It's never quite like that. So super fun. And like this one ended up looking like a city. I don't even think I used anything city like for that, or maybe I did, I can't remember. But just a lot of the little things kind of end up cropping up while I'm doing while I'm just playing with the filters and the lines and symmetry and all that. My main program that I'm using right now is Ibis Paint. I've heard good things about other programs. I think that's just the one I landed on. So I use that one fairly proficiently. I also really like this piece on the top right. That was probably one of the first ones. And again, just using lines and filters and manipulations. And I was just like, okay, this is the process I can get into. So this is probably one of my favorite pieces. If you look in my classroom, I have a bunch of like rainbow stuff too. So I like this sort of aesthetic. I've also played a little bit with video. So I think there's a link to my YouTube channel. So I've been playing with video a little bit, mostly because when you have a program like Ibis Paint, I don't know if Procreate or any of the other ones do this, but they record your drawing process. So I like taking those videos and manipulating them further with video glitch software, just to kind of see what comes out of it. So I'm basically using the same process but with video. I think that one's got sound on it. I don't know if you can play it or not. Womp womp. Oh, there we go. So I usually find like just weird, like ambient, like trippy stuff, whatever matches the mood. Resisting the urge to dance right now, just like trying to keep it chill. Also, if you guys have never heard of this Bartholomew Traubeck guy, he does the tree rings, like where he's taking the tree rings and like using like a record player or something similar to create music. It's absolutely insane. So I love kind of using all of these things that I find and kind of collage them together. And I don't know if there are any, I think there's that one we can watch just for fun, I suppose. So that's the new greeting card that I'm working on. And I just love these like playback features. So I like for people to see the process, especially my students, because I would have loved to have been able to see some of these processes when I was their age. This one's pretty straightforward. It's just goes on. And the rest of it's just an outro, so you can feel it. But yeah, so I always feel kind of weird showing this stuff because I'm like, oh, look at all of this serious art. I like drawing cartoons too. I grew up on cartoons, and so did my daughter. So unfortunately, we have the same sense of humor. So it's like a huge comedy all the time at my house, which sounds great. It's not. It's weird. And then I think the last thing I want to show.
All flooded inside of
Okay.
it.
Okay.
I was on with the guy for a while. I got to check it in 2 hours to make sure it's repaired. There was one other thing you
What
told me.
happened to my thing? This just stopped.
Touched it.
Oh.
There's something
How do I get it on the big screen?
Oh, I missed virtual virtual discussions. So I think the last thing I probably want to show, again, like any feedback, if you guys visit my stuff, like I would love to hear whatever you got to say about it. Helps boost my ego a little bit. But I think the last one I want to show is that video poem test. I started playing with poetry a little bit, kind of just like this trippy, kind of Twilight Zone, I'm half awake, half asleep type of thing. So I'd like to do a little bit more of this. I don't know that it's probably the strongest work that I have, but I've been enjoying the idea of manipulating video and adding a sense of poetry to it. So a little dramatic. So yeah, just sort of weird video collages, kind of echoing and exploring, my own thoughts. So there you go, something really silly and something very dramatic. I always tell my students, I'm like, Shakespeare did that all the time, put the funny stuff next to the dramatic stuff so that both would just be better. And that's how I try to justify my own sense of strange being. But I think that's really, everything I wanted to show. I appreciate you guys listening, and feel free to take a look. If you got a couple dollars, you want to support folks on Patreon, cool too. No, I'm kidding. But I just appreciate you guys listening and kind of being a part of this amazing Techspressionism movement. So I think that's all I want to really talk about.
All right. Thank you so much, C. And also glad to be of service, I guess.
Oh, I appreciate you, Davo. Like, seriously, intuitive clicking, man. Just so good. So good.
It helps having lived on the internet for like 20 years at this point, I guess.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. Now, does anyone have any questions for C? Either feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand and I will get to you immediately. Let's see. Oh, got praise from Marlo and Renata and Tommy and Caro and Malavika and Cynthia.
Oh, thank you guys for all the compliments. I'm just reading through them and I'm like, oh, thank you.
Also, I apologize if you hear cats fighting in the background. They tolerate each other. And right now they're not tolerating each other so much. So apologies, you can hear that. Tommy wants to know, are you editing the video with After Effects?
So I do a couple of things with After Effects. I did my motion logo on my website on After Effects. What I have been using is anything that I can get mobile. So I have been using InShot and other things like that, just things that, you know, I can kind of use in a sort of mobile fashion, because I find that art's more accessible that way for me. Because if it's not driving somebody somewhere or going, please put the props away, what are you doing, stop biting that person. So there's always something going on, and I find like those 5 minutes that I might be waiting on somebody to go into the grocery store, that's, you know, time to myself that I could be working on something. So mostly things like InShot. I do use Premiere Pro and After Effects for some things, if I've got time to sit down and actually work on things. So yeah, that's it.
Oh, one thing that you said earlier about how you don't set out with any intention with your work, that's me most of the time. When I do my work too, like that, it's just things come to me, but it's not that I necessarily have a plan going into it. So I definitely can resonate with that. Oh yeah, question from Michael.
Hi, Fran.
Michael Price.
Hey, see, well, maybe a question, but also just some comments. So even though maybe, you know, I'll let C respond, but even though maybe she doesn't go in with intention, she's a very deep thinker and she feels things very deeply. And it was interesting as part of our collaborative process. I think we were both hesitant to step on each other's toes at times, because I think we're both very sensitive that way. And it made for a very challenging collaborative process. She freaked me out at the end when she changed the color palette on her two pieces to match mine, because I changed my stuff to I thought complement hers. So it was totally, but when she did, after she did it and she was cool with it, then it's like, okay, you got to go with what you got, you know, what you feel right. So I appreciate the collaborative efforts that are being made as part of our community. Thank you, Davo, for getting that off the ground. And so for me, I see a lot of depth in C's work. And the thing that attracted me to want to collaborate with her was the spiritual quality of those Renaissance type pieces. That drew me in when I first saw her work, and that's why I even approached her about, you know, doing the collaboration together. So I'm glad she wasn't too freaked out with me, you know, wanting to collaborate with her. So it was a really cool process. So thank you, C.
Oh, thank you, Michael. It was fun, and I agree. We're both like, is that fine with you? Is it okay with you? So we were. I agree. We're both pretty sensitive, but
But
think,
who wouldn't want to collaborate with a great wizard?
Right. Like that was my, like, I was like, wait, who's this guy? Yeah, I want to collaborate with that guy. But I did really appreciate the dialogue and the back and forth, and the spiritual quality of your work as well. So it was fun. It's good.
And speaking of the collaboration project, round 3 will begin eventually. It may not actually start by the end of this year. We will see, because there's just a lot of stuff that's been going on in my life, and man, it's been a doozy. But it will still definitely happen. Like, I plan on keeping these projects going for perpetuity until I can't do it anymore. So there's that. But unless anyone has any other questions,
I think there was one in the chat.
was there? Interesting comment from Tommy. No,
I don't know if my microphone's working. I was just wondering, I'm sorry to jump in.
No, it's all good.
Carmen, I love the idea of you working everywhere and anywhere, sort of in this post-studio practice, if you will. Do you think where you're working affects how you work and what you're thinking about? Because, it's interesting to sort of consider, here you're, just jumping into your work. It's very hard for me to get into the mindset to sit down and do something, so I'm fascinated to hear you talk about that experience a little bit, if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind. Sure. Thank you. So I think it just really depends. I also do a lot of graphic work for the school. So those things are usually, my butt's on fire. I have to do it quickly. So those are the things that I tend to do, like in the car, just things that I don't have to think about too hard. So I was telling Colin when we got in, so my classroom also kind of doubles as a studio space for me. So I think when I get a lot of these, like the pieces that were on my website done, I think I tend to do those at home. Like when everybody else is in bed, all the dogs are asleep, they've stopped barking. So I find that at night is when, wherever I am at night, I tend to I find it to be a little bit more freer in the process. But it honestly, it depends on the day, the time, whether the sun's out, who needs to jump into my classroom to grab something.
If Mercury's in Gatorade.
If Mercury's in Gatorade, where it's all over. But I find that the process the most enjoyable when I'm just like at home in absolute silence and quiet. I don't feel like I have to like put it down or stop or punctuate in any way. I can just kind of go for hours and regret my lack of sleep in the morning. I hope that answers your question.
Totally, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Oh, we have a question from Cynthia Rubin.
So I just wanted to jump on that, what I wrote in the comment about how you said you didn't start from a place of intentionality, but clearly the intention comes as you go along. And what you're just describing sounds like you really get into the flow, for lack of a better expression. How does that process, do you feel a moment when you're like, okay, now I know what I'm doing with this? Or do you want to talk any more about the magic?
Oh, sure. So
were you able
oh, go ahead.
No, it just sounds like there must be a magic moment when you go, okay, now I know what I'm doing with this.
I think so. I think there is a magic
moment. How
moment.
that unfold.
That's such a great way to describe that, is the magic moment. And as I'm working, sometimes it'll start with, like I said, just a scribble or a shape. And somewhere, and sometimes it's closer to the end, sometimes it's closer to the beginning, there is a moment that I'm like, oh, this reminds me of something, or this is evoking a certain feeling or a certain visual in my mind. And a lot of the work I have the little ginkgo leaf symbol, and that's for me something personally symbolic, because it's a fond memory that I have of walking across the campus and seeing all the ginkgo leaves and picking them up and thinking they were pretty. So if something that I'm doing, or I'm in a place of nostalgia, I'll find myself drawn towards certain symbolism. But yeah, there is definitely a moment where I'm just like, oh, well, this seems like, X, Y, and Z. It's kind of hard to describe it, but there is the aha somewhere in that process.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. All right. Gonna double check the chat one more time. I don't see anything else. Does anyone have any other further questions? Going once, going twice. Penny for your thoughts. All right, sold. Thank you so much, C, for your time and your presentation.
I appreciate y'all.
Pleasure having you back again. All right, moving right along. I think Brett, you have the floor, and I think Colin wants to give an introduction for you first, or am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I just Skojo actually just wrote me a couple things because he was going to actually introduce Brett. They had been working together. They've been working together on this project Niftorian. So I'm just going to read what Skojo wrote. So Skojo, you know, some of you guys might know him from previous salons, and he's been involved in the project for a while now. He also is kind of the lead on the Pinterest for Techspressionism, and you know, has been helping out in a variety of ways. But he's the creative director and one of 4 co-founders of Niftorian, and he created one of the owl mint passes along with some other Techspressionist artists, Michael Pierre Price and Skywater. Skojo also designed the website for Niftorian and worked with an amazing artist, Matthew Curry, to create the owl PFPs, which are profile pics, which are going to be available December 6th. And yeah, so that with that, I'm going to introduce Brett Kinsella, who I met recently, also on Zoom through Skojo, and he's going to talk a little bit about Niftorian and let us know about that project. So passing the mic to Brett.
Thanks, Colin. So really excited to be here today, and I'm really excited to go after C, because first of all, she mentioned opera. My brother was a professional opera singer for a number of years, and it's always interesting to hear that come up from time to time. And you know, I'm also excited to be here because, you know, I've known Skojo for about 8 years. We've worked together on a number of corporate projects over the years. And this past summer, we were sitting down together. We hadn't caught up in a long time, and we started talking about NFTs. And he was really interested in what it meant. I had become a collector. I didn't really consider myself an art collector in the past. I'd bought a few pieces, but it really wasn't, it was always somewhat random that I purchased it. I was at an art show and I just liked something, but I'd actually become a collector of NFTs, and we both saw that there was something really significant going on here. And it was a different type of conversation about art than maybe we'd had, you know, 3 or 4 years ago. And so the other thing I probably should point out is I come from a family that has a lot of art in it. My mother was an art teacher for many years. My aunt was also an art teacher, both for over 30 years. And, you know, coming up in the 60s and 70s when they were sort of early in their career, art teaching was essentially the only option that they had. Not that they didn't love it, because they both did. And they're both wonderful teachers, but they didn't really have a way to get their art out into the world. And that was an important thing for us to think about. And I wound up, you know, talking to Skojo, is obviously a working artist, and some other folks that I'd worked with. I went a different way. I wound up going into the tech industry. And see, by the way, the other thing I love is bots, because I'm really into the tech side of this. I'm very interested in generative art, but I also, for the last 8 or 9 years, I've worked in AI and bots. So we all have a very circuitous way that we go through life, but that's where I've spent a lot of time. So I just love this idea that you had the Skelly bots. It was really fun for me. And I started working in tech back in the mid 90s, around the same time Skojo did, maybe a couple years before him. And we'll call that Web 1, right? So Web 1, internet. And one of the things that I've done throughout my career is I've worked in tech, and I look at what it does from a transformation standpoint. I'm really interested in its impact on culture, on how consumers change behaviors, as well as the underlying technology. And one of the things that occurred to me as I was thinking about this and the construct of what we've seen over the last 25 years is that Web 1 changed a lot of things, obviously from a discovery distribution standpoint for for lots of different folks, and monetization. So if you're a retailer, you're a product seller, you're a publisher of some sort, the internet really introduced a lot of new opportunities for you. When I was looking back to, I was talking to Skojo and some other artists about this, it didn't really change the art world that much. And this wasn't something that I'd really thought. I just assumed the internet changed everything. But essentially, there was a little bit on discovery. People were able to do websites, maybe a little easier, particularly after about 10 years into it, when they became cheap enough so individuals could do that. I remember when we were working on websites back in the 90s, they cost $1 million to deploy. I mean, it was just ridiculous. You had to buy your own infrastructure. It's like such a different world. So it helped a lot of folks, but I was looking back and I was like, well, it didn't really fundamentally change the structure of the art world. There were still collectors who then met artists through intermediaries, and it was largely the same. And maybe some people here have had different experiences, but I was looking at that and I say, oh, geez, I've been through like Web 2 as well. And a lot of people know this was, social media and connectivity and user-generated content. And that helped. Obviously, things like Instagram gave a little bit more discovery and distribution options. And yet it didn't fundamentally change the structure of the art world. Yes, there was some direct to collector. It did expand a little bit, the collection. But again, just talking to folks and sort of looking at where we are, it didn't really change that. And it didn't necessarily make it easier to become an artist by profession. And so many artists, supplement what they do by working other areas. So that was another observation. And so this is where Skojo and I wound up over the summer saying, oh, well, this Web3 concept is very different. And so I don't know if like people here are familiar with Web3, but there's terms that you may have heard like blockchain, decentralization, new spaces to engage. These fundamentally change discovery, distribution, and monetization, and for artists. And so that's one of the things that occurred to both of us that was really, really significant. And we started talking about like what we could do about this, given both of our backgrounds. So the other thing that became clear is he, as an artist, didn't really know how to take advantage of this space. And I knew a little bit because I'd been collecting. I saw what a lot of people were doing, right? So just like knowing what other people are doing gives you the examples of, oh, here are some different things you can do beyond the art, because there's a lot of things beyond the art when you get into the NFT space. And so before I go much further, I would be interested to know, like, if you guys know how to use the little hand raising section, how many people here have actually launched an NFT? You can either raise your hand or you can use the little hand raise function. It's like, just get a sense. Okay, so quite a few. Great. But quite a few not. All right. So it's sort of mixed. And it's an interesting space because there's a lot of different things you can do. And there's the new intermediaries now that will allow you to sort of post on their site. But again, there's not like a resource out there or people necessarily to help you along. It's all word of mouth. Like, how do I take advantage of this space and really leverage the opportunity. So this is where we started. And we started this idea of a project for artists that was about art, that was also about community, and also about adding experience, beyond the art. And then this concept utility that you'll hear. Now, I might use some terminology that you're familiar with, and that's great. If I use some terminology you're not familiar with, just ask a question in the chat. I know Davo will bring it up at the end, because I'm really happy to do this. Even with people who are really experienced in this space, it's an evolving space. And so the terminology actually changes every month, right? There's like new terms that come in. And so unless you're really paying attention to it very closely, it's easy to get sort of left behind. So like it's all a learning experiment right now, what's going on. In that way, it's very much like the rise of Internet 1, Web 1, the internet. And because we're going from an analog world to a digital world. We didn't have anything. We had to create now obviously we need to create new artifacts, new art, but we also needed to create new terminology just to really understand what was going on. So, okay, this is where we go. The Niftorian project is an NFT project. Now, it is about art, but it's not just about art. It's about more than art. So we talk about it as a artist-centric and collector-friendly project designed to make the creation and collection of NFTs a team sport. And that comes from the recognition that many of the people who are most successful in this space are really taking advantage of the new opportunities are actually collaborating. So it might be collaboration among artists, but oftentimes it's collaboration with people who are not artists, right? Who might be collectors, might have other skills in the space. Like they might have the ability to do Solidity development. Solidity is a programming language that's commonly used on the Ethereum blockchain. And that helps you write a contract that allows you to, for example, get a royalty every time that piece that you sold is resold. And I'll just say that this was the thing that blew me away. A lot of people know who Beeple is, particularly since he sold the Everydays for 69 million. That was the headline grabbing item. He'd actually done a couple projects at the end of 2020, which were also very significant. One of them, he sold a piece for $600,000. Great, super opportunity. He admits freely that before NFTs, that would not have been an option for him. He's been doing this for, I think, 15 years, just developing these things and barely selling anything. He sold a piece for $600,000. Life-changing for him at the time and his family. Like this is just a few months before the 69, but 600,000. That piece was sold a couple months later for $6 million, right? In the past, the collector would have gotten all that gain. He'd written into his contract a royalty of 10% anytime it's resold. He got $600,000 again 2 months later. I mean, it's just like, it's kind of mind bending what's going on here. But that's one of the things that I think, Skojo and I were really talking about. We talk about a lot of artists. These are some of the things you should be thinking about. It's not just about having a great collection. It's not just about having a great concept or great technique, great art. In this space, you also need to think about all these other variables that no one had to consider before. And there's new ideas coming out all the time. So that's one of the things that we started with. And the other thing that we heard from, interestingly enough, from collectors is they want to meet more artists. They're really interested in the stories behind it, just like what C was able to share with us today. And the artists we talked to, and maybe it's different for the folks in this room, but we talked about all these different things about NFTs, and then at the end they'd say, well, I would say, well, what's the thing that would be most important to you? And they say, well, I would like to meet more collectors, because typically I don't really know the collectors, or I don't know very many of them. Certainly, I don't have like a relationship with them very often. And so he said, okay, all those things come together, and we have several different pieces that we said, okay, this is something that we can do, which will be meaningful. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about utility now. So, and then we'll go into art, and then we'll just do Q&A if that works for you. So utility, this is the whole idea that associated with a project, you can give people more than just the art. So I think of this idea of ars gratis artists, that absolutely is a thing. But in our project, we're layering on all these sort of benefits. And one of the very simple ones we did in the beginning was this new website called Niftorius.com. So not to be confused with Niftorian. Niftorians, they're the denizens or the residents of Niftorius, if you think about it that way. So Niftorius.com is really, it's a news site, because what we found was it's so important just to keep up with what's going on, whether it's what artists are doing, what the marketplaces are doing, because that actually defines in many ways a lot of the things you can do to go beyond just actually putting your art on display. So that's available. And then the other thing we've actually just quietly announced, we're actually going to start promoting it next week, so you guys can sort of get an early view on this, is we're doing what we call an NFT artist accelerator. Now, you may not be familiar with accelerators. They're very common in the tech world, and so I've drawn some of my own experience there. But what they do is they basically take startup founders who are very early in their process, and they run them through, usually in this case, an 8 to 12 week program, and teach them about finance and marketing and product development and all the things that you need to run a business beyond this core idea of what it is. And sometimes with that, they also find co-founders, and at the end of that, they have a demo day. And that demo day is they say, this is what we're going to build, or this is what we've started building. And there are usually investors in the audience. And those investors then will sometimes invest in what they're doing because they believe in it, because they've heard the story and they understand what's going forward. And so we were thinking about this. I said, geez, so this would probably be really good for folks. They could go through, it's basically an educational process. You go through, you might have an idea to start with. Maybe you need to learn more about what the tech side is, like how do the different marketplaces work? What does it mean to know what a smart contract is in this space? What are some of the other things people are doing to add utility or other experience? And so we have a curriculum that we've laid out, which will go, it's not going to be as long. It's going to be probably 5 or 6 weeks, but there'll be a couple sessions a week, which will bring people who are experts in the space who come in and we'll talk about these different topics. We're going to mentor folks in this space to get them to their first NFT project. Now, there's this demo day concept, and we thought that would be really fun. Now, normally you think about is the demo day would be the show, right? The art show. And we said, well, why don't we do something before that? Why don't we do something where they can meet some collectors and they can talk about what they're going to do for their project? Maybe they show some early work, but they really want to talk about the entire concept. And that'll be a way for them to engage with the collectors up front. And then from there, sometimes they'll need maybe someone to help them with marketing or development or something else, or they're looking for another artistic collaborator. That'd be a way for them to go through that recruitment process. And so that's one of the things we're really excited about. And then from there, then they move forward and we help them get to that product launch. And whether you've done an NFT project before or this is your first one, I think a lot of people that we've talked to have said, hey, we've been looking for this. So that's one of the things that we want to do. If you're interested in this, I would recommend you go to Niftorian.com just to learn more. If you scroll down, it's like the 3rd or 4th stripe down there. And we have an application process. And that's only because we don't have like unlimited space, unlimited mentors yet. So it's a rolling admission. So people just submit and say they're interested, what their concept is. And then we get back to them and do a review. And then we'll try to accommodate as many people as possible in that process. So really excited about that because really we just want to facilitate this process of getting people to market. The other thing we're going to be hosting next year is a NFT 100 artist show. We believe that bringing a lot of artists together will help all of them meet more collectors, right? So we're bringing the collectors together. We're going to create a larger crowd around that. So that's something we're working on. We're going to do an NFT artist conference, which will provide some of that. Oh, nice job, Davo. Which will provide some additional benefit for artists. And in that case, what we're going to do is day one, the artists will be in the audience, and we'll have some of this more technical discussion on stage so the artists can learn about the process and different technical aspects of how to run an NFT project. And then the next day, the artists are going to be on stage. They're going to be talking about what they're doing, and the collectors will be in the audience and the other folks. So that should be really fun. We have a bunch of other activities that we're going to add. We've got this idea that this is a 10-year project for us. And so we've got a few things that we're rolling out, which actually is a lot just unto itself. And so we just wanted to say, oh, let's just nail these things. But there's going to be a lot of other things which are going to be utilities or benefits for both artists and for collectors. So we've got a number of things for collectors as well, because I think that's really important for us to help develop this community of collectors who can then the artists will have access to, and to get early feedback on some of the things that they're doing. So those are the functions, the sort of general outline. Now, I do want, if I could, so you guys are seeing, these are the personal profile photos, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But actually, maybe I could share my screen. Let's see if I can do that. Because I have another thing up here. Let me just walk you through a couple things I think would be really helpful. So Davo, can you see my screen? Okay.
Yep.
So there's this concept called mint passes. Don't really worry about that. That's basically just having an approved list or a special whitelist where people automatically can participate in a future activity. But what we wanted to do in the beginning is, because we care about art and artists, is we said, hey, a lot of the folks are just doing these mint passes, and they just look like these little, simple images that it's basically like a ticket to a concert, right? They don't really put a lot of effort into it. And we said, oh, why don't we do this to display a lot of different artistic styles? And let's bring some people who have done maybe some NFTs, some people who haven't done NFTs, and get them through this process. And so we have this idea of this founders collection. So this is going to be an NFT mint that'll come up on the 6th. And each of those pieces actually has absolute value in their own right. I'm going to be a collector of all of them once they go live. But then they also provide this whitelist access to what we're going to call some of the follow-on offerings, and one of which is the personal profile photo. And what I thought I would do is just take a couple minutes, and then we'll go into Q&A to talk a little bit about this. So we have 14 artists who created the Founders Collection, the Mint Passes. And Michael Pierre Price, thank you very much, is one of them. Skojo is as well, and Skywater from this community. And you can see we got a lot of different styles. We have generative, we have illustration. We even have one that was created in VR. And then we have one that's a video. And so just to walk through a couple of these. In a moment, but before we do that, I'll say those are all going to lead to this profile picture piece as well. Now, the profile pictures are really big, so you'll see. I'm sure many of you have seen this. If you haven't been really paying attention to it, no big deal. But this idea that people are taking art and replacing their social media icons, their profile photos, with the art, and what this means is a lot of times they're just different animals and things like that. Now, again, some of those are, there's a wide variation in the quality of the skill applied for those profile photos. We again tried to err towards something where you could see the artist's hand, you could do some really interesting things. But one of the key things here is this is essentially a ticket to a community, particularly for collectors. So they're going to be part of this community. And one of the things you need to do is you need to have different attributes so they're all unique. Right. So if you want 10,000 variants, you need to have these different types of attributes. And so in any event, we have this profile photo concept. We started with this idea of the owl, and there's a lot of different reasons for that, which I won't go into here, but really fun. It's just, what, sometimes these things are just fun. I think about like Skelly bots, like it's just that art. It's, shows skill and shows great, great concept, but it's also fun. Right. And so that's what we're doing with this. We're also doing a bunch of memes. Betsy Schrock has been doing a lot of really interesting work on the meme front, which I think if you guys want to just go to Niftorian on Twitter or Instagram, you'll be able to see all of these. So just to walk through a couple of the different pieces that we have by JK5, Donna here, Matthew Curry. Matthew also did the PFP, so those owls. And in each of these, the only instruction we gave or request we made, Michael and Skywater can tell you, is we just said, hey, do an owl in a scene, just in your style. Let it just whatever you want, because that's what we want to do. We want to see what people would come up with. This is Skojo's piece. Here's Skywater. Michael Pierre Price. This is a generative piece. And I think this, Michael, I think this was the first one that came in, and I was just blown away because I think Skojo had only talked to you like a few days before, and then this came across. And like I recommend everybody when just go to if you go to Niftorian.com, there's a drop down for all the artists, and so you can just select them. Look at this close up. There's some great stuff going on here. Really love it. This right here is a video. You can see the video on Niftorian.com as well. You see Mac, apparently he had several hundred cassettes laying around his studio based on a project he'd just done for Radiolab. And he started thinking about this, and he had that old reel-to-reel, and he said, oh, here's my owl. So this was really cool. So you can see the assembly of that owl as well. And actually for all the artists, if you go through and you click through to their page, we actually have some process pictures in there as well. There's Joe McKendry, Amanda Spade, Kihan. We're seeing, as you can see, there's a lot of different styles that represent here. Darko's done a number of NFTs out in this already. Gavin Farrell, this was his first. This was done entirely in VR, and this is also a video, so you can actually see this owl coming towards you. You see he's holding a snake, which is wrapped up like a Bitcoin symbol, which is kind of clever. And then Scott Leach, who's also done a number of NFTs, and he's in addition to being a working artist, he's also a game maker, and he's a NFT product manager for a different chain. So he's like really deep in this space. All right. So those are the things that I wanted to share so that people could see that. And I think maybe this would be a good time to take questions.
All right. And I think we did actually have a couple that were already coming in. I had an early one from Renata. She wants to know, what is a DAO and how important are they today?
DAO. Decentralized autonomous organization. So that makes it more clear, doesn't it? If you want to use the actual words. So DAOs are very popular right now. So this idea that when you're in the blockchain, and particularly these are popular around different type of projects that use cryptocurrency, the question is who's in charge? And one of the big things I talked about earlier around Web3 is this idea of decentralization. So no one centralized organization can control it, right? So we talk about the centralized entities that we have today, like the big corporate media or Facebook, right? These are all organizations that on their whim can make a decision that might impact you in your life. If we look at Web3 and decentralization, there's really no one person who can take down Bitcoin, for example, or Ethereum. These are two different blockchains that actually have currency associated with them. And that's one of the real fundamental aspects of it, that there's no centralization, no one individual is in charge. And so what this leads to is basically collective activity if you need to get something done. And so that's where DAOs come in. They're essentially a collective of people who all own a certain kind of coin or potentially all own a certain type of NFT. And therefore they can, as a group, decide what happens as opposed to any individual. That helps them move forward, but it's also one individual can control it, right? So think about that process of governance, right? And so that's what a DAO is designed to do, is to create a mechanism for governance. All right, so now that I've said all of that, it's not necessary. And in fact, I think in most cases, it's not advisable. Most of the DAOs don't actually get anything done. They all struggle from this fact that there is no leader. A lot of times that's very helpful to have a leader. And then also, like, many of them don't really know how to actually create governance, so there's all these other things. But then there's also potential tax and securities issues that I think we should think about. And that's one of the things that we'll talk about in our accelerator, for example, is the tax and regulatory environment. So I would say you can do a DAO if you want to, but you absolutely do not need to do it. And if you did want to do a DAO, I would just say you're adding a lot of complexity. You just need to be prepared for that.
All right, thank you for that. And speaking of the accelerator, somebody wants to know if the accelerator program is just online or in person.
It's going to be online only, because I think that's the only way we're going to be able to reach everybody and get them together. If we can, we will try to arrange for an opportunity for people to meet in real life, but that's not a core part of the program right now. All
right. And Lee's got a technical question for you.
Okay.
Wants to know, I can't loop my videos as GIFs because they're too big. Would it be possible to mint an MP4 and have that loop?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go.
There's a technical aspect there in terms of where it's hosted,
right?
Whether it's on chain or it's off chain. But like when you think about NFTs, there's two things that are going on there. One is just the record of ownership. And so this is obviously the first time that we've been able to say, oh, this person owns that digital asset. And I can, if people are interested, I can actually go into this idea of why it's not just a JPEG in this space. But we have this idea that somebody owns it. And then the other aspect is whether it is actually stored on chain or not. And some NFTs are stored on the blockchain. So in that case, you do have some limitations. It's more difficult to have some of these large file sizes. But a lot of times what happens is the on-chain information just points to an off-chain environment. And there are some decentralized solutions for that, like IPFS is a database essentially in the cloud that a lot of people use.
All right, thank you for that question, Lee. We have a question from, looks like Carmen. I see. So would you recommend the application for someone who literally knows nothing about blockchain, NFT, crypto, etc.? Would you recommend that they apply?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it's designed for. It's designed for people like across the spectrum. We're going to provide a lot of fundamentals. And one of the reasons why we're doing that is we've had a bunch of conversations recently with people who have minted, and they come with it. They say, listen, I did this, but I'm no expert. Now, there are some people who have done a lot in the space, and maybe that's not going to be the best fit for them. But even people who have minted some things, usually they say, yeah, you know, I did this. I learned enough to get it on OpenSea or Hen or somewhere else. But I really didn't think through all the things that I could do, and I don't know what's going on. And I will say is what's going on in terms of what other people are doing. And I will say that if you minted in January, February, March, May, like all those months were a little bit different. But what's going on now is even more different. I had a question just the other day from someone about, well, what if I want to do physical art? You know, how do I deal with that? Do I not do an NFT? Do I just do the NFT and I can only do digital? And I say you can do a lot of different things. You can have both. You can sell them separately. You can sell them together. You know, Banksy even had a project where after 1 year, after they purchase it, they have the owner has a choice of either the digital NFT or the physical art, and whatever they choose, the other will be destroyed, which is sort of in his general MO anyway. But there's all these different types of things that you can do. So definitely, you know, anybody here in particular, you know, we're big fans of Techspressionism. You know, I am, because I come from a tech background anyway, so I like this anyway. But you know, Skojo's a member, and so we plan to do some things like Colin and I were talking about. You know, the 100 Artists NFT show, trying to get people from this community engaged, and maybe actually setting aside slots for you so that like there's heavy representation here. So we want this to be for everyone.
All right, thank you. So actually, there's a fair number of questions now coming in. We have a question from Sherry Carver. Is there anywhere to take a class on NFT 101? It sounds fascinating, but very complex. I'd like to learn the basics of how to create an NFT and how to post it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I will say that some people won't want to go through the accelerator right now because there's a little bit of a commitment there. You got to basically attend some sessions and things like that, but they'll still want to learn. And so we actually, if you go to the Discord server, which you can access through Niftorian.com, you guys can get in there. We've just started a channel over on the left. So if you guys are familiar with Discord, if you're not familiar with Discord, please become familiar with Discord. It is I think the most important social media platform for the next decade. We're all going to be on there if we're not already. And one of the reasons it's actually really good for these smaller communities organized. But we have a channel in there on the left-hand side called NFT University. There's just a couple things in there, but over the next couple of months, that will be heavily populated. We're also going to be running in that Discord. If you guys are familiar with Clubhouse, a very similar type of thing you can do in Discord, where you have stages, and we're going to be interviewing folks who are going to be able to share their experience in this space. So there'll be everything from sort of how-tos to conversations. And the most important thing, though, is that through this community and some of the things that you've heard me talk about from a utility standpoint, we're really focused on this learn by doing aspect, because we've all recognized being part of this is it's very hard to understand what's going out without doing some of these things. because it's a very different mindset from what we've seen before from either a tech standpoint or an art standpoint. And so we'll have lots of programs there. So I definitely go into the Discord and look for that. And then on niftorious.com, we have news up there now, but that's going to start to have a lot more educational material as well. It's a great question.
All right. And I realize we actually only have 30 minutes left. And I know we need to get to the Giovanna stuff, but I'll try to get through these really quick. Try to highlight some of the bigger ones. So that one was actually kind of answered.
Let me just, I'm looking at them here. Let me just hit a couple of them really quickly. So what chain does it use? The Niftorian projects is on Ethereum. And one of the reasons that is because that is the most heavily used chain by a wide margin. There are some positives and negatives, but it is the central aspect of it. We do expect to support other chains going forward, but we're starting with Ethereum and we'll support some of the others. In terms of cross-chain compatibility, the first place we're going to see that is, and if people don't know what this means, there's all these different blockchains and you live on one, but not on the other. It's like you have to make a choice. But there is this idea that NFTs will be portable across some of these chains at the very least. The first thing we're going to see is the ability to see your collection across chains. So Coinbase is going to do that. There's a couple other companies that have come up recently that are working on that. And then eventually we'll be able to actually transition them and maybe view them across chain. So there's definitely people who are working on that. The environmental impact is a big one, or a very common question. Well, a couple things are happening right now. So, I think first of all, there's
I can interject and maybe because there was an explanation that was given to me actually not too long ago at a conference that I was at, because I was at FinTech Black this past week. And it was a really good comparison, and I actually looked into it and it kind of matched up. So the environmental impact, it's not actually based off of the number of transactions on the blockchain. It has nothing to do with how much energy is being spent. The issue with using blockchains like Ethereum is the fact that the process of generating blocks is what actually uses energy. And that's at a set amount. So there's just going to be a set amount of energy produced to create these blocks, and blocks are just essentially just additional parts of the blockchain. But using NFTs, what the issue is you can imagine almost like a bus coming around every 15 seconds, because that's about how quickly blocks are created. So you have a bus coming every 15 seconds. Bus is going to come regardless of if there's anybody to get on. So the people getting on, or the passengers, you can think of those as NFTs being written onto the blockchain. So regardless if there's people writing NFTs to that specific block, the block is just going to go anyway, every 15 seconds. So you're not really contributing anything by creating NFTs, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you individually not. If we started having really high volumes, I mean, there's so much more going on these blockchains than NFTs. NFTs are certainly adding to it, and maybe adding to some of these blocks a little bit, but not a lot. And so actually one of the things you actually look at, there's a really good some really good articles on this. If everybody wants to follow up with me, I'm Brett at creatorius.com. So Brett at creatorius.com. I'll type that in the chat. I can send you some things on it. But essentially it's about the cost of a tweet. So nobody says, oh, we shouldn't tweet, right? But these transactions individually are really about that much.
And the fact that they're actually addressing the environmental effects. They've been talking about going to proof of work, correct?
Going from proof of work to proof of stake, which is
there we go.
Technical aspect. Essentially what they're doing is on the Ethereum blockchain, the cost of running these blocks is probably going to go down by about 100x next year. So that's obviously really significant. And this is something we'll talk about in the Discord. If you guys have any questions, just come in and hit me up. Actually, you can email me, but I don't even check my email that much anymore. I'm in Discord all the time. Go to the Discord I'm Creatorius Rex in there in the Discord because everyone has their names for that. And and just ask me there too, because I'll be happy to talk about any of these things with you. Plus, there's other folks in there who have other technical skills that I don't, that can answer those questions. But yeah, the price of gas is coming down. The price of transactions is coming down. However, this is not, that's like Ethereum and Bitcoin. There's a lot of other chains which are more centralized so you give up some of that decentralization. They're a little bit more centralized, but it's much less costly. And so it's like thousandths of a penny for every transaction. Gas fees should be going down. Yeah, that's Tommy. Yep. That is that I would expect. They are high right now, but people are managing around it, and that's one of the reasons actually we do the Mint Pass idea. So the Founders Collection is a much narrower distribution. You have to be on a white list, so you can choose the time of day that you're going to purchase one of these pieces, like Michael Peer Prices, for example. And so, you know, certain points of the day, gas might be $30 or something like that. And gas, if you don't know what that is, it's a transaction fee that the miners on the blockchain of Ethereum charge. All the blockchains have this transaction fee called gas. And then the other thing is, so if you have the Mint Pass, then you can get into you can also acquire the PFP, the OWL, and you can do that also at your leisure, you know, and you can pick a time when the gas is low. So that's one of the reasons why we put that mechanic in, but then it also just gave us that opportunity to really highlight what we think is some really great art.
And I think got a bit of a twofer question from Colin and Lee both. Is Niftorium a market like OpenSea, and is it going to be curated?
Okay, so it's not a marketplace like OpenSea. I mean, our goal is to help people get on whatever marketplace makes the most sense for them. So we're really more facilitating that. In terms of curation, there will be some curation. So for example, obviously the accelerator that we talked about, we're going to select people who will be part of that because we can't just do everyone. There's also going to be the artist show, so there'll be some curation there. And then people who are part of our community, we're going to help promote them. So there will be some curation, but we're trying to be curation light because we really want it to be a place for everybody. And in particular, there's a lot of folks who, you know, want to try something new. Maybe they're new in their career, but it doesn't really matter. Sometimes people want to try something new. And we want to make a space available for that. And the other thing, Lee, yes, it can be less than $30. I've done transactions within the last couple of weeks at that, but it is, you have to know the times of day to do it. Most of the time, it's somewhere between $80 and $180 per transaction. Yep. But that's the part we expect to come down by hopefully 100x by the middle of next year on Ethereum. But in any event, these are all things that we can talk about. In fact, some people who while our project is on Ethereum because it's the one that it's the most accessible by everybody right now, we fully expect that some of the folks who go through our project or we facilitate their project or their education in this will go on Tezos or Solana or one of these other chains where, you know, gas is basically de minimis. Mm. It's just when you go to those chains, you just have to be aware that there's not as many buyers. Correct. So if your collection isn't very large, that can be okay. But there's a lot of the Ethereum buyers won't go to the other chains. Mostly the people on the other chains will spend time in Ethereum from time to time. So that's why we start there with what we're doing. But what you are doing is a completely different decision based on what's best for your project.
All right. These have been actually really great questions. And as Brett was saying, a lot of these probably can be answered on the Discord, which I provided the link for in the chat. So if you want to go ahead and join the Discord, go ahead and click the link. That should take you right over. And thank you so much for your time, Brett. It's been very informational and very valuable. I think for anybody that's actually tuning in later, I hope that you've gotten some value from this as well and about the Niftorian and Niftorius project. And yeah, you have any last words, Brett?
come over and join the Discord and just check it out and see what we're doing. I would say that I would recommend you just do that now. We've got a couple links in there that you can just collect, because then you'll just have it. And if you don't have Discord, it just takes a moment to sign up. It's like any other social media place, and it'll be a little bit of a foreign concept to you initially, but definitely come over, and just so you're there, and then it'll be easier for you to sort of keep track of what we're doing. And definitely check out the website so you can see what we're doing. There's a lot going on there. And I would just say that this is really exciting. The thing that I come back to is, we talk about this royalty thing where people can, that the economics just are much better for artists than they have in the past. But my observation is that there are 1,000 times more art collectors now than there were a year ago. And these people believe themselves to be art collectors. They didn't just buy art. They now believe themselves to be collectors. And so this is a space where it's looking for quality art. Some people think there's too much art out there already. So many people, and there is a lot of garbage, but this is a place that actually is looking for quality art, people who actually have an interesting story to tell, that want to do some interesting things. And we're here really just to help facilitate it. So this is a project Cocho and I signed up for the next 10 years. So we hope we can be helpful to at least a few people here.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brett.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, I think we can go ahead and move along to Giovanna and her project that she's working on or put together. So you're ready for your presentation, Giovanna?
Yes. I think I have to share my screen, right?
Yep.
Do I share my screen now?
Yeah, we got pulled up, or we can see it at least.
Okay. So let me talk about. It's actually started from crazy idea. So a lot of time people they ask me like how did you get those crazy ideas? They won't call that art. They say crazy idea because it is a crazy idea. I'm a big fan of science fiction film, also mythologies, religions, and it's like everything I put into my brain. So this is how my brains work, that I have a lot of data and information, like exactly like what you see, that's always occupy my brain. So people they ask me, how did you put together? It's just like I'm not an organized person, but I train myself in like an organized person. And I use a lot of open source and data, of course, internet, that you can actually find a lot of interesting idea. Last year, I done several VR projects. So this is like a 360 camera I use. So that's like opposite side of Empire State Buildings. So I took some photos because of work that I use my phone, take some photos, and I do some Photoshop. So these already mended on OpenSea. I also like one of my collection is a Japanese bath. Well, I'm a big fan of a Japanese culture. I was born in Taiwan. We have a lot of influence from Japan. I just really like the culture, especially I went to one of the Japanese baths in Japan. Like they take the baths like a public bath and outdoor hot spring, and a lot of tourists that you can actually have this experiment. So I feel like this is so fascinating. So I got this really old image from Metropolitan Museum of Art, and everything is public domain. So I normally when I do some manipulation for this type of NFT, I just do a lot of photo retouch and also extract the background. Sometimes I still leave it there, like if it looks like a vintage, those type of a style. And I collage with the different colors and put some new elements, especially a lot of time I use the color looks very different from the original. Like this, well, I would say like Japanese bath, this series is, I got a lot of commission. People, they send me the email, they say well, which I feel like they ask about like if I can lower the price. Of course, I like to lower the price because back to the January that when I start to make my NFTs on OpenSea, I even give away, or I put in a really lower price. And then I realized even sometimes if I give away that people, they don't want to list for sale, or they don't contact me. So like this says, so I start to adjust the price that I have to put on price, because I think that's more fair for those collectors, especially for people like they like to flip. Like some NFT collector, they just want to flip for sale, and they do want to see the money value for that. So I start to so add some money value on the NFT. So this is this is a Japanese bath, and I also have a several series collections. So this series is a Trans Utopia series. So I also use the vintage image, and of course I already do some like a basic extract the background and some filter, change the color. Like this series is also like I have a lot of requests that people they just love it, especially the way I put into all the color that is like a glitch. It's not like something you can see like everywhere. I personally, I really like glitch. I think that glitch, you can see like an overlap, and that's like a metaverse. Even I don't know heard that word in the past, but I just learned it this year, metaverse. I feel like, oh, this is like metaverse, like my metaverse, my universe. So more like this is, you can see the left hand side, this is the like original image. So I do it like this one, and this like so I think in 10 minutes, because I just amended and laid on OpenSea, and then I got this email like, so like congratulations, which I still feel like that if you really have some good idea and a good creation, that people, they will buy it no matter how, and they just make the decision so quickly because they afraid people they will take these art away that they don't own it. So so this is always I tell people, like, of course the number one thing is you have to just have your original idea, and you have to make people they love your art. So this is a doodle. I'm not like a professional illustrationist, but occasionally I really like to draw since I was in the age 3rd. So this series is called Adam Uni. I have some my doodle because I'm a big fan of Maroon 5, that the lead singer, his name is Adam Levine. So I just use his face. So think about this unicorn. So you can tell that this is like a hipster, and there's like, so I have this character, I portray this Adam Union. It's a Adam and a unicorn. So this is my doodle, and I Photoshop into one of the collections. So I done with this idea, and then how do I put the idea into the business? I call this a business because I really just focus on NFT. So I don't want to proceed my formal company. I closed one VR AR company early this February, and I started to create NFTs. So how did I start my journey? It was like back to the end of the January when one of my friends, he's also my collector. He collects several of my fine art paintings. And he just said to me that, oh, Giovanna, why don't you tokenize your art and make some NFT? And I said, what? Like, tokenize my art, NFT. Yeah, I have some basic knowledge about blockchain and NFT. And for me, it's still more like some idea, or I have a little bit knowledge, very like I'm really young and like 3 years old when I heard this term tokenize my art. So he gave me some idea. That was like Una Notte a Napoli. So that's like Italian pop love song. It's about an angel has a romance with the girls on the earth that they fall in love, and somehow the angel is an angel without the wings, and he back to the heaven, and the girls just start to think about this romance and all these crazy elements that somehow I made it, that I put all these elements together. So I made my first NFT, and also before that, actually, I already made Colin and the Davonte last year through the Techspressionist Instagram and the website. So everything just come together. So in the past that I'm self-made entrepreneur, I'm MWBE, Minority Women-Owned Business, certified by New York City. So I used to run interior design company in Taiwan. And I have a interior design firm. I run in business and design one of the project. The biggest project is a restaurant, and I also design some residential. So I decided back to New York about 11 years ago. So I also I started from scratch. So I learned everything again, and somehow I made it. I have a web design company, but that was the one that I got an MWBE. I closed that company, but I run the company for 5 years. I built a lot of website already. So this year, I just totally back to like a creator and artist. Like in the past, I always curate art shows, but I done several abstract painting, but I really didn't focus my own art. And this year, it just all of a sudden I have all these idea and all the old stuff and the new stuff and the new technology that back to my brand again. So I start to create this series. I have these trans utopia wonders. This is also like my favorite glitch style, overlap and use a lot of color that I feel like it's not like a usual, like an ordinary color people like to use, but somehow I just put in my own way. So this is an exhibition and shows I done in the past. I was really early, back to 2013, that I curate Bushway Open Studios. And the first day I got like 500 visitors, all the art lovers. They went to Bushway, which it was like Bushway. It's still like a desert back to 2013. And I got a space also. It was like a sponsor from one of the investor. He lives in Bushway. It was just a LinkedIn post that I posted. Oh, I like to do a show. Like I want to have an art space, and he just replied me and DM me. He said, "Oh, I got art space," and he owns several art buildings in Bushway. You know, he just said to me, "You're welcome to use some space." It's just the same thing. Like when I got this space from Williamsburg Hotel, it's just like, so if you want to do something and you have your passion, and I'm always enthusiastic in art, like the people, they support me, you know, like from all over the place. Like I still feel so grateful because I have a lot of supporter, and I'm only like a middle class and I don't have a really good background or resource, but somehow like because I have a passion and a lot of people like to help me. So so I have a art shows, and I'm co-organized the Highland Chelsea Open Studios last year. We will do it next year. I also have several ideas, and I'm going to put together. I'm going to Art Basel. So if you happen in Miami, you also can see my art in NFT .best, and also the satellite shows. And of course, you all know that we have an upcoming art event that you can mingle, and it's a holiday art event, and you can mingle people in Williamsburg Hotel. And it's, I really hope that all the Techspressionists and all the artists, you can share this message to your friends and family. Yeah, I want to make all the people go to Williamsburg Hotel on December 16th to see all the Techspression museums artworks. So talk about curations. Okay, we done this. Because I also want to announce that I have this new project that I want to develop for 2022. That's called Express Oran Live Paris Metaverse. If you see these the slide, you can see that this is like the ongoing curation. The idea is Oriental Express is express train. Well, that's not like a high tech in the past. It was it started from Paris, and the last stop is Istanbul. So when you take this express train, you can go through the whole Europe. And a lot of movies are novels that is based on these express train. So my ideas came from these Express Oran. So I want to collaborate and make these metaverse that people, they can use a mobile phone, like augmented reality, virtual reality, even a lot of galleries and all these space or anywhere in your mobile phone, you can participate. That's all these the idea. So I like to coordinate with Techspressionism, and I already found some European resource that I have a friend. He just opened a new gallery in Turkey, Istanbul, which I think is so interesting because Express Oran is actually the last stop is Istanbul. So somehow I just have a new friend, and he has a gallery in Istanbul, and he say he definitely want to look into it. And this is also like an open project that I want to have more artists that we can collaborate and participate. So talk about this is the Una Notte a Napoli. This is the very first one I saw on OpenSea, and I still have a video that I put it on sale. And which a lot of people ask me, like, how do I get involved and how do I have this idea? I think I already, as I mentioned earlier, it was like from my collector's idea. I thought he's the one who brought it. Actually, he's not, because it was like a commission work, and I made it for him. And before he made the purchase, someone just brought it, and we feel so surprised. I believe this very first collector is from Clubhouse, because the day before when I dropped my NFT, this very first NFT I want to make an announcement, I went to one of the Clubhouse room, and the host, he's like a crypto investor. So when he asked me like, what type of work did you do? I just say, oh, I'm an NFT artist. He said, oh, you know what? I want to look some your work. So he's the only person I send the link. It probably, which I think probably either he's the collector or someone in that room is a collector, because no one knows that that. And it was like back to the January, really early. So so I want to talk about a little bit about the Transutopia, because this series is a kind of a booming. that I have a collider. I still have some commission. I like to also open the collaboration if any artists in this room like to do it with me, because right now these days really like I have like already multitask that I had to do it more, and unfortunately we only have a 24 hours per day. I couldn't do it myself. So my trans utopia. So I a lot of people know what is a trans, and a lot of people know what is a utopia. But my trans utopia is a like I'm more specific because I really like trance, like EDM, electronic music, and I also like the idea of a utopia. A lot of time, the people they talk about dystopia, or a lot of art like a crypto, cyberpunk, or like a dystopia, like people. We think about the future as all like broken, and everyone is falling apart. Like we see the monster and the aliens, they occupy the earth. But I think about trans utopia that we still have different dimensions we can live in. And the other thing is I have a lot of Black humor. Well, sometimes if you like my humor, you can take that humor. But if you don't like it, you're going to hate it. So this NFT I already sold is also I sold immediately back to February. So this is before the Valentine's Day. I kind of like anti-Valentine's Day. So I have this piece, which I feel like kind of disturbing, because this is also open source from Metropolitan Museum of Art. I use angel because I'm always curious about angel, because angel is in between. It's a kind of a species in between. Oh, by the way, I don't have a religious. So if I make any offensive statement, please forgive me, because I have a very low sense about religion. But I feel like it's just interesting about like why angel want to kill this couple, and this is like Adam and Eve. So that's like the origin of a human. So I make this this is a map. It's based on, of course, you know, this apple is a logo, but it was like my original drawing. So I just cracked this. It is apple, and I put this so I titled this NFT called partner in crime, which I saw this word everywhere, like Tinders or the other dating app. I make fun of these very which I think is interesting. So why do we have humans that like the angel want to kill them? So this isn't like my Black humor. So I research a lot of human history, and also like those ancient war and science, and a lot of science. My style is like you see like surrealism, and of course I call myself Techspressionism. This is a new genre, right? So that's why we can meet together. So I also developed the other transnomination. It's more like a geometric mathematic. So I use all the cube and some partial of these arts like AI generative art, and I manipulate with the colors, image, and of course some filter and special effect. So this is a great thanks to Anne Spectator that I joined this NFT Now curation. So we all know that it was featured by ArtNet. And so I also joined several metaverse curation. So I got more exposure. So if you want to see, you can see this is the metamuseums.io. My friend Vera and Daniel Millennial, they're the founder and co-founder of this metamuseum.io. So they still have a lot of metaverse project that I can coordinate next year. Yeah, I try to do it like save the more time that we can have a Q&A, and this is my contact. And I really like to talk about Express DRN, this project, and Metaverse. Of course, I want to do more curation for Techspressionism next year. Yeah, thank you. So now we can have a question that if open to ask any question if you want.
Oh, thank you so much, Giovanna.
I haven't checked the message because I was a little busy just doing my presentation.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Looks like I don't see any questions in the chat. Just a couple of comments. Some praise. And yeah, does anyone have any questions for Giovanna? Off the top of their head? No.
I just wanted to say really quickly, is there anything that you'd want to say to people who are interested in still submitting work? I appreciate that you organize this thing so quickly, the pop-up and set up the Google Sheet and everything else like that. I just want to make sure it's as easy for you as possible. Like if people want to bring, if they're in the New York area, for instance, the metro area, want to bring a small piece, should they show up a little ahead of time and like they would be hanging their own work, or is there anything that you want to let people know as far as what to do or what not to do, regarding that pop-up show? And I'm going to leave that link up, through, I guess, the end of the day tomorrow. It's at techspressionism.com/Brooklyn. There's a link to the Google Sheet where people could, add a link to their minted NFT or their contact info. And then after that, that'll be removed. But I will leave the Eventbrite link up for people who want to just attend. But again,
for those who want to showcase the physical art, the only thing I can suggest is if you have a time, you can just make a trip to Brooklyn, that Williamsburg Hotel yourself. Or there's alternative way that if you have a small paintings that I'll say, I think the biggest maybe, so that's easier that I can put on the table. Like they have a several like a lounge and like a sofa area. And also I can just bring something that I can hang it on the wall, but I think it's easier because if you do it like a large print or photograph or any paintings, and the other thing is because that will be a busy day. That's a holiday, and the people will mingle. If you have a large piece of art, that'll be a little bit hard to do the installation. So that's what I suggest. And if you want to have some material like your postcard or business card, sticker, whatever, you're welcome to bring it. So I can set up one table that all the guests, they can pick it. So that's all like the marketing materials.
And Giovanna, I want to let you know too, like once the submission is closed and you've finalized what work you want to include in the show, send me the final, at least for the NFTs.
Sure.
I can post that list of links on the exhibition page so people who can't be there physically, can still see what works in the show.
Yeah, sure. For the video, you can, or like a still image. It's easy that if you have a 2 hour, just send it to me. Yeah, please don't send me the whole folders because I yeah, just 2. That's good enough. Something you can pick yourself to include it. For me, I think it's easy that because I'm going to put everything into like a video, like a loop. So people, they can just rotate and see all the work, include Techspressionism in 2021, this exhibition that I'm going to take some screen recording. So for the physical painting or print, that will be a little more challenge. So I'll say well, I like to include as many as possible before the deadline. If you just sign up, that's the first thing to do. Just sign up today.
All right. We have a question from Tintin. Is that for the Brooklyn show, how are you planning on showing the videos?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
For the Brooklyn show, how are you planning on showing the video?
I have a projector, and the hotel, they're going to provide one screen, like a TV screen, hang on it can be like a stand or hang on the wall. I just brought one a digital canvas. So but I don't know like how good is that canvas, because I just order and it's on the way. I haven't received it, but I have okay, let me get that projector. I have a projector, so I will bring a screen or just use a wall. I have a friend, I have a two friends, they're going to be like a volunteer, help me to set up. Feel free if you have, okay, let me put my phone number here again. Just call me, it's easier because things, yeah, it's just like a last minute show. But I still feel excited because one of my biggest interests is also curation, that I like to pull all the artists together, build the art community. And I got this hotel, they just like, and the other great thing is that because I didn't fund it, they fund me because I met the hotel manager in NFT.NYC, and she just say, do you want to do some art event? I say, oh, wow, that's good. So I don't really just ask people to some sponsor the space, that I got it this one because they fund me.
Very cool. And like, if anyone there, or you or someone else who's there wants to set it up, just set up a laptop and throw Zoom on. We could always run it as a hybrid event too. People could pop in who aren't I'm not, unfortunately, not going to be able to get down to the metro area, but like people could come in. This Zoom link is basically like a 24-hour room. Like it's just
Right.
a live Zoom link all the time. So like, it could be linked up, and say a collector's like, oh, I want to meet this artist, blah, blah, blah. Like people could be there at that time, in a sort of synchronized way. That's always a possibility. So,
Right. Yeah, and also because it is a really good hotel. That's and the outside is a lot of graffitis, and the art scene is really good.
We have a question from Lee, which I guess you could probably provide a list at some point, or maybe contact him directly, but he was wanting to know what all tools that you use to create the art that you do.
Yeah, can you see my presentation? Oh yeah, actually I already prepared. Let me I upload a lot of videos on YouTube. So sure.
Yeah, if there's any video links, Giovanna, you can paste them directly into the chat too.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I think that's better. Yes. Okay.
Also, like to
I had to run out briefly. I was informed by my wife that I
already
on the stove.
prepare. Yeah, so you get all these useful links for today.
All right. And I do apologize that we've actually gone over time by a couple of minutes at this point. And I know I want to try to be respectful of people's schedules. So actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to, are you done sharing your screen, Giovanna?
Oh yeah. And I just want to stop. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Great. Thank you. That being said, thank you everyone for your attendance here today. It was a pleasure having you. I hope you have a good holiday if you celebrate, or if you don't, hope you have a good weekend that's coming up, because we're not going to see each other until 2 weeks from now. And thank you so much for all the information that has been shared today. There's been a lot of information probably to sift through, so please do hit up the YouTube link or YouTube video after it's been posted to cover any things you might have missed. There were quite a few links that were dropped in the chat, so before the meeting closes out, please do go ahead and either go to those links and bookmark them or save them or wherever. I can also provide the whole transcript for the chat if need be. If you'd like to, you can reach out to me, email, my Instagram, Facebook, Discord, wherever. I'm kind of all over the place, so there's that too. And I don't think I have anything else left to say other than, again, thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you, Davo. Thanks for your service as always. Awesome job. And thank you to C and Brett and Giovanna. Really great presentations today. So, and thanks for everyone who attended.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Great session.
All right. And with that, we will be signing out. So closing out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's a wrap.